I have a story to tell you all. The setting is mid-2015, Sierra Leone. The Ebola epidemic is in full swing. At this point in time, over 20,000 people have been sick across 3 countries. Nearly 10,000 have died. In that period, last week, an old man died. We don't yet know if he had Ebola. We're still waiting on the results. But according to the national protocol, any death, whether or not we know for sure that has Ebola, needs to be handled by a special safety protocol. We got national bylaws that a person has to notify the public health department. The body will be tested, and even before the results are in, the body will be immediately buried, what we call a safe and dignified burial. This is a process that can be overseen by a local priest or imam if someone wishes, but it will involve cleaning the body with chlorine, putting it in a sealed body bag. The people who do this are highly trained burial technicians. They wear full PPE, and I mean full. It's mask, it's gown, it's gloves, it's boots, it's face shield, fully covered up. The reason for this being it is just too dangerous. Well, we just learned that after this guy was buried, that night his sons came back, dug up his body, took him out of the body bag, dressed him in his own clothes, reburied him on top of the body bag. Now we're going to have to quarantine the sons, their family, at least until the results come back. Now we all know, those of us who are in public health, that when a person dies from Ebola, that body is highly infectious. To touch the body is extremely risky. In fact, an awful lot of the cases we've had so far have been due to people who have been preparing a body or attending a funeral who have been handling the body of someone who died with Ebola. The risk is so great, that's why we have the bylaws I just told you about. Full protection for highly trained people to bury the body. So what on earth were these guys thinking? We've put this message all over the place. We've explained the risk every way we know how. These guys are playing with their lives. They don't listen to us. Why won't they listen to us? I have a second story to tell you. Last week, my father died. The authorities say they think it might be Ebola. We don't believe them. He was in pain for many years. In fact, he was in desperate pain right up to his dying day, and the worst part of it wasn't even the physical pain. My father was afraid for his soul. You see, right now, because of the Ebola epidemic, the elders and the national authorities have put strange rules, bylaws on all of us. They say we can't follow our traditional burial practices. Instead, people from outside, people we don't know, come in. They're wearing these strange white clothes, covers everything. You can't even see their hands and their faces. They don't even look human. They put the body into this big plastic bag. I've seen those bags. It looks like the body is sweating inside. It's a horrible, horrible thing to do. Strange people, strange customs, strange clothes. That's no way to pay respect to the dead. But you know it's even worse than that? We're Christians, and we do follow our religion and follow what our pastor teaches us, but we know from our elders that how you handle the body of someone who has died makes a difference to them in the afterlife. It makes a difference as to whether they're going to be received by their elders into the village. And if we don't properly care for their body, it calls into question the safety of their soul. So, of course, we did the only thing we could do. My father, on his deathbed, says, "Please, my children, don't let my body rot in that body bag." That's a man's dying words. Don't let my body rot in that bag. So, of course, respecting his wishes, we came back that night, my brothers and I. We dug up his body, we gave him a proper, respectful burial. We dressed him in his good clothes, and we placed him in the grave the way he should be. Now the police have arrested us. They beat us severely. We're waiting trial in front of the elders. They're threatening to quarantine our family. They're threatening to throw us in jail. But I ask you again, what could we do? See, it's not just the risk to my father we're talking about. If you don't take care of someone properly, if you harm their afterlife, there's a good chance they're going to come back and haunt you. I know a village just a few miles from here where another man died and his spirit haunted the village so bad it was throwing rocks at the people. It was killing animals, making animals sick. One woman, one of the nurses in the clinic, was personally haunted so bad she nearly lost her mind. So of course we did what we had to do. These outside doctors, they don't get it. Most of them don't even believe in God. They certainly don't understand the spiritual world. They don't understand the risk that we're incurring. Why won't they listen to us? Okay, that's two stories. Two very different stories, two very different worldviews. A bunch of you have probably guessed by now they're actually the same story. Or more accurately, they're two completely different stories about the exact same set of facts. In the epidemic that we had in Ebola in Sierra Leone and in Liberia and in Guinea, the difference between our worldview that drives the safe and dignified burial practice and the worldview of the people with their own burial practices was so great, so vast, that many people actually fled into the bush when they knew they were sick or concealed the death of their loved ones when they died because they so feared the ramifications of what we called a safe and dignified burial. This is a burial which, according to them, was not safe and it was not dignified. And you know what? Honestly, we missed the boat. We're scientists. We're proud of our science. We're all about reducing risk, and we use chemistry and biology and epidemiology and lots of other ologies to define that risk. And it's good science, and we do it well. It's our trade. But we often forget in our scientific surety that the people we serve are not merely biological organisms. Now, I don't mean that in a metaphysical way necessarily. That's really a completely different discussion. But the reality that people experience is a reality that is spiritual and psychological and has so much that drives it other than just what we consider to be empiric facts. And when we ignore that broader reality, we do so at our peril and at theirs. Now, I don't actually know what it would have looked like in Sierra Leone had we done a better job of taking a look at this broader picture. We didn't do it. We certainly didn't do it in time. I suspect that it probably could have involved something like maybe cultural adaptation of the PPE to make it a little less threatening and foreign and awful to the people who see it. Maybe it even would have involved figuring out some way to help a family to wash and dress the body, but with some protection of their own, using chlorinated water, using gloves, maybe a gown, not fully covering themselves, still looking traditional, but having at least some protection. No, it would not have been as safe as full PPE by a trained team. We know that. But a little safe that a lot of people do may actually save more lives than a lot of safe that nobody's willing to do. We ignore the people's reality all too often in our scientific, dare I say it, our scientific arrogance. We need to make a concerted effort, by we, I mean the broader health community, but we're CDC, so I'm talking to CDC. We need to make a concerted effort to take into account those spiritual and physical realities and psychological realities of people at the get-go, not at the end of the story. It involves listening to people while we are developing recommendations, while we are developing solutions. Negotiating harm reduction, negotiating risk reduction, rather than doing what we all too often do, which is come up with a recommendation and then look for cultural interpreters to be able to send it to the people for us. And if we do that process, if we begin to engage people earlier in the process, again, the individual risk for an individual episode may still be greater than our full safe recommendation. But the population risk, I think, can really be reduced. We can have much better engagement. And you know what? We probably won't get it right every time. We have to be willing to iterate the process. Come back, look at where we're failing, analyze why, get those informants in again, and determine what we need to do to modify our strategy further. We have got to learn to listen to the people Anything else is way too risky.